Okay, let's jump right in. Today we're looking at a company called Regenova Pharmaceuticals, and they have a pretty bold mission to completely change how we discover new medicines. We're talking about going from a process that takes years down to just a matter of weeks, and they're doing it all with the power of generative AI.
And at the heart of this whole thing is a really powerful personal story. This quote from the founder, Ankur Patel, pretty much says it all. This company wasn't born in a boardroom. It was born from that awful, helpless feeling of watching a loved one suffer. And it sparked this mission to make sure nobody has to just sit and hope for a cure ever again.
So that personal crisis really leads to a much bigger question, right? Why is the system we have so incredibly slow and ridiculously expensive? I mean, it's a problem that affects every single one of us, delaying cures and holding back real innovation. And that's the broken system Regenova decided they had to fix.
Now, before we get to their solution, we really need to understand the problem. So let's take a minute to look at just how broken the traditional way of discovering drugs actually is. And it's not just bad for patients, it's bad for the planet too.
First off, let's just talk about the time and money. To even find one potential antibody candidate, and that's just the starting line, the old-school process can take anywhere from 6 to 12 months and cost over $10 million. Just let that sink in. A whole year of work and a huge pile of cash before you even know if you're on the right track.
And here's where it gets really painful. After all that time, after all that money, a staggering 75% of those candidates fail in phase 1 trials. It's just a brilliant, brutal illustration of the waste that's baked into the old model. We're talking wasted money, wasted time, and worst of all, delays for patients who are waiting for a breakthrough.
But the cost isn't just financial. There's this hidden environmental toll that we almost never talk about. Turns out, traditional labs, or wet labs, pump out about 2.7 tons of CO2 for every single researcher, every year. Not to mention mountains of plastic waste. So in a very real way, our search for cures is actually costing the Earth.
So let's just put it all side by side. The traditional model, slow, expensive, and a total crapshoot. Regenova's AI model, on the other hand, well, it aims to slash that discovery time to just a few weeks, cut costs by 65%, and hit an almost unbelievable 98% predictive accuracy. Oh, and it can juggle dozens of potential drugs at once. This isn't just a small step up, it's a whole new ballgame.
So how in the world do they do it? Let's dive into the technology that's trying to build a completely new foundation for the entire biotech industry.
The secret sauce is something they call the Trace platform. Think of it as this all-in-one AI system built from the ground up just for creating antibody drugs. It handles the whole shebang, from figuring out what to target in a disease, all the way to having a drug candidate that's ready for review in human trials.
And here's kind of how that process works. Trace starts by identifying the right target. Then, the AI predicts the perfect antibody sequence to hit it. It builds a 3D model, predicts how well it'll stick to the target, and even runs simulations for toxicity and safety. And the key here is it does all of this in silico, which is just a fancy way of saying it all happens on a computer before a single physical experiment ever has to be run.
So, and this is the really crucial point, this isn't just about doing the same old thing, only faster. By doing all the smart work up front and weeding out the failures in the digital world, they're creating a biotech model that is fundamentally smarter, safer, and way more scalable.
Okay, so a revolutionary platform sounds great in theory, but is it actually working in the real world? Let's take a look at the proof, because Trace isn't just a concept anymore. It's already putting points on the board.
Credibility really comes from collaboration, and Regenova has built an incredible team. They're working with Cancer-Free Bio on a cancer drug, they're using IBM's quantum computers to get even more accurate, they're tapping into NVIDIA's AI ecosystem, and they're backed by the super prestigious Johns Hopkins Ward Infinity program. These aren't just logos on a slide, these are deep, meaningful validations of their science and tech. And what's the result of all this? Well, here it is, their lead candidate. It's a monoclonal antibody, or MAB. You can think of it like a highly specific guided missile that targets a disease. This one was designed completely inside the Trace platform, and what's so amazing is that it has the potential to go after not one, but 4 different types of cancer: colorectal, pancreatic, lung, and cervical. That just shows you the power of designing a therapy with this kind of precision right from the start. And the momentum is absolutely building. Their lead drug is now moving into real-world testing. They've got an advisory board with heavy hitters from places like Merck and Einstein. It's really impressive. And all of this is backed by the founder's own experience leading FDA-approved programs at huge companies.
so there's some serious industry know-how here.
All right, so with the tech proven and the momentum building, what does the future actually look like? Let's zoom out for a second and see the massive potential that Regenova is tapping into.
So Regenova is sitting in this perfect sweet spot, right at the intersection of two markets that are just exploding. On one hand, you've got therapeutic antibodies, a market that's heading toward $500 billion. And on the other, you've got AI and drug discovery, which is also growing like crazy. They are basically riding two giant waves of innovation at the same time.
And this number right here, it really shows you the scale of their ambition. The goal is to hit $200 million in revenue within 5 years, mostly through licensing deals. This proves it's not just some cool research project, it's a real plan for a massive commercial and, more importantly, a massive clinical impact.
And that brings us to the final, really important question that this is all about. What if we could stop just discovering drugs by chance and start designing the exact cure we need for a specific disease on demand? And what if we could do it in a matter of weeks, not years? That is the future Regenova is trying to build.